100 years ago, Great Britain dominated the seas and controlled roughly a quarter of the world's land and population. Today, Britain can't even defend its own children from foreign predators on its own soil.
You don't dare!
Yes, you have a knife.
You don't! Hell, help me!
Why are you fucking with us?
Get bashers!
Show the knife. Show the knife.
Get
Show the
away from us!
Show the knife. Show the knife.
Don't touch her!
That's it. That's it. Show the knife.
Don't touch my little sister!
Show the knife. That's it.
Don't touch my little sister! She had 12! We're talking about... Where's her touching me? She had 12 and you just battered me, man! Bring my touching me!
Yeah, show the knife. Maracha.
Don't touch her! Done to me! Don't touch her!
That video, the still image of it, has been on my mind all week long. Joining us now with more is Matthew Marsden. He's a Blaze contributor, actor, producer extraordinaire, and you're from here. You know what is going on back in Britain right now, and I just see this, and we see a frightened 14-year-old girl, right? And she has a bladed weapon, and she was charged for possessing a bladed weapon to try and defend her 12-year-old sister. So how does Britain get to the point where, like, you can't even rely on anyone? These kids are out there fending for themselves, as we saw in that video.
Well, this is inevitable. When I moved to the United States around 2000, the mass immigration to the UK had started under the Tony Blair government in around 1997. And it's very often, it's kind of like boiling the frog, right? Like when you boil the frog, the heat comes up gradually. That's what was happening in the UK over the past 25 years. Now, for me, going back there, I saw a massive difference, especially in the last 5 years. I was over in the UK last summer. I went there twice, and it was very, very, very different. It was literally like visiting a foreign country. They're in real dire straits. And the problem is, in the same way you've seen the American public be gaslit on so many different things, the Brits have really, really been gaslit on this. There's a two-tier justice system, even though they're saying that there isn't. There clearly is. And you have a situation like this, just so the people know, like, if you look at that footage that was there in the say over here, the apartment block that's behind it, we call them flats over in the UK, that is basically the project. So that is like where I grew up. And this is where the majority of this is occurring, because what they're doing is the British government is putting these, I always put migrants, because they're not migrants, right? We need to find a better word for them. They're putting them into these working class, low income areas. And these people who are, they've been told for years that their opinion doesn't matter anyway. They're being marginalized, and then they're being told, listen, we can't even help you. So this is what happens, because a lot of these kids in these working class areas have been subject to the grooming gangs that we've famously seen, and then they're told these aren't the droids you're looking for. In fact, they're told that you're racist if you highlight the fact that these are mainly Pakistani grooming gangs. That's just a fact. So it's got to this point now. Now, I do want to say that on this clip, the Daily Mail actually said that the person who was filming it was someone that went there. They did go there. They are a migrant, but they've been there for like 4 years or something like that. And I believe they were from, I think it was from maybe Bulgaria or something like that. But again, that's kind of like a red herring, isn't it? Because what we should be focusing on is why these little girls feel like they have to do this. This is not normal. Clearly, it's not normal.
Yeah, this guy was technically permitted to be there. He's not a citizen,
no, he's not a
full-blown citizen, but he is still allowed to be there. And I'm thankful that we're still in the United States right now, because when a mass, when a shooting like it happened in Minneapolis, when that happened, we are still allowed, even if the leftists, try and cover up for it, we're still allowed here on this program to call evil out by what it is. And we can say that out loud. Go ahead and let's look at what the BBC has done with just an image of this 14-year-old girl there in Scotland. This is what they have to look at. They are not allowed to look at the bladed weapons. They had to blur them out, Matthew. Like, they're not even really dealing with reality anymore.
No, I mean, this has been something that has been a factor for a very long time. And when I moved to America, when I first came here, I didn't understand the freedoms that Americans had. Right, I was still under that mentality, like, well, of course you shouldn't have a gun. You know, who wants a gun? And then you read about the history of the United States, and you're like, well, actually, it's absolutely essential for freedom of speech. And what you're seeing over there, and it has been the case for at least 5 or 6 years, is oddly enough, Jill, the criminals have the weapons. Isn't that funny?
The gun-free zone, except for the criminals, Matthew.
It's the same thing over here, right? Like, we aren't allowed to, I say this coming from the communist state of California, that we weren't allowed to have concealed carry, but of course the criminals carry the weapons regardless. So what is happening right now was, and it continuing is inevitable, that the people out there are going to say, we have to protect ourselves. And this comes from not only terrible immigration policy, unrealistic immigration policy, a failure to recognize the difference in cultures, because that's really the biggest thing. They're importing a culture that is not compatible with Western society. And then what they're doing is they're saying, if you recognize that, then you're a racist and you need to go to jail. And the British people are just not taking it anymore. And I'll tell you this, they're very famous for that phrase, right? Keep calm and carry on. And I know all about that. I know all about the stiff upper lip and come on, let's not panic. And I mean, even in the Second World War, when London was getting bombed to pieces, everyone had a very quiet resolve. When you're seeing that, it's over. Like, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle on this now. There's conflict coming in the United Kingdom. It's coming.
Okay, let's get to that, because we do see a lot of the Muslim immigrants, migrants, whatever you want to call them. They don't always just stay in Muslim countries. They come and they conquer Western countries, right? They want this. This is part of the plan. You can't convince me any otherwise, right? And we look at just the number of mosques that Britain has right now. It's over 1,800 mosques that they have over there. It's the Western capital of Sharia law. They have over 85 Sharia law courts now open throughout the UK. And we've known this one. This one's been going on for years. The name Mohammed is the most popular boy name there in London. We see it over and over and over again. So how many more signs do you need? And you say that they're on the precipice of real danger. Is there a civil war that is about to happen?
Yeah.
Take me in there.
Without a shadow of a doubt, there's going to be a civil war. And mainly, look, I don't blame the people going there as much as I blame the people that have allowed them to go there. Because, look, many of these, and this is just for the American audience here, that they understand that many of these people that are coming from places like Syria, they're coming from places like Libya, which, thank you very much, Hillary Clinton and, deposing Gaddafi, they're coming through Italy. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Italy, but Italy is really, really beautiful.
It's beautiful.
So what happens is, as they travel through Italy, up through France, maybe through Spain, the actual people that are fleeing war-torn countries, and they have something to offer, your engineers, your doctors, your professional people, they're being absorbed into those countries. And they're not always assimilating, but a lot of them are. So what happens is, at the end of this trail is Great Britain. So they're literally getting the worst of the worst scumbags. And they're giving them a phone, they're giving them money, and they're putting them up in hotels. It's staggering, especially when they're cutting back on all these other things for the British people. And again, like I said, it's almost like they've said, the British people, Brexit was all about stopping this. That's what nobody wanted to say. It was not even about Europe. It was about, we've got to stop having to take these people in. And again, I think it's really important to delineate that we have people whose cultures are not compatible. If you come into a culture, then you need to assimilate. They're not assimilating. Like you said, they have their own courts. They have their own, and the British government is allowing them to have that. So when you have a two-tier system, clearly there's going to be unrest. I'll be honest with you, Jill, I've toiled over this because I'm like, what is the end game? The only thing that can happen from this is unrest. And so the British people are either going to be oppressed or they're going to rise up and there's going to be some kind of revolution. And neither of those things are really good. But what are the alternatives considering they've got a government that's gaslighting them all the time?
So you go from being the world superpower and, God save the Queen, and the Brits were proud people.
Yeah.
So how did they go from that as their history to just, okay, we're just surrendering the country right now? This is what's happening on the streets.
Well, I will say this, and I'll say this in
Kind terms?
Yeah, well, I'm going to say, firstly, I want to say it's in contradiction to a lot of good conservatives, right? I am behind Trump saying that you shouldn't burn the American flag. When I came to the United States in 2000, it was 2001. We had the premiere of Black Hawk Down. I came over for that, and that was just after September the 11th, and all I saw everywhere was the American flag. It was everywhere. And the feeling of unity, of people coming together behind that, it was really moving to me. And to this day now as a citizen, I get very emotional when I say the Pledge of Allegiance and I see the flag, because it has always meant that for me. Years ago in the UK, what they did was they said, if you fly, and it's the Union flag, right, which is, the one that everyone likes wearing on their clothes and everything, that is racist. If you like that, then you're a racist. Okay, so that started, at the end of the 80s with the football hooligan generation, which actually, that was my generation. Generation X was the football hooligan generation. So what they said was, if you fly the flag, if you fly the St. George's Cross, then you're somehow a racist. And they demonized it. And they made the British people feel guilty for their colonial past. And what they haven't done, again, this is exactly what they do in American schools, is they don't teach you all the good that Americans have done. The blue-haired freaks that have taken over schools are teaching, oh, you know what, this is an oppressive country, it's a racist country. This is what happens if you do it over 20, 30, 40 years. In England, you've got a very confined space with people flooding it. And that is what has happened, basically. So now what you see is people painting the islands. Have you seen it in the middle of the street? They're painting with the St. George's Cross. They're putting the flags up. And also, think about this. You can put up your pride flag. You can put up your Palestinian flag. But
Your Ukrainian flag. Don't forget the people's favorite.
But you can't put up the Cross of St. George, which is it's the flag of the English. It's utterly absurd. And now people are done. And I think that it's a culmination of being oppressed under COVID. And the British people now are saying, that's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen. And Lucy Connolly, again, that was a huge flashpoint. We all know what they're doing. And it's the same as here. A lot of traditional liberals are going, this is wrong. We have to look at the alternative. So they're going conservative.
So be proud of who you are. Don't let them take your history away.